Good morning, grade 9. We are now on our third week for the second quarter, and this now will also serve as the beginning week for the discussions in grammar. The past 2 weeks for the second quarter as well as the first quarter have been spared for literature. And I know you've had your share of time reading a lot of things. Like my personal choice was poetry, reading a lot of poems when it came to the discussion, to the FTs, to the STs. But one thing that I liked there is when the STs were in the nature of being quite subjective, it would really demand that you should have read whatever was found there and that the answer should have really come from you. You need not rely on what the notes verbatimly say, or that browsing for an answer online proved to be insignificant, because that again, it is a question of how you saw those selections that I had given, how the selections have created an impact on you for you to be able to answer or give an answer to the ST. But now we will have a discussion in grammar. Of course, if you trace it back to when you were in elementary up until grade when you were in grade 8, the lessons in grammar came to have just been repeated. Lessons in grammar more or less remain the same. Should there be any change or modification or improvement of content, minor perhaps would be noticeable. But in terms of the scope, in terms of the landscape of discussion provided by grammar, content has remained to be the same. It's probably as well in the differences of examples. The examples kind of become more complex as you also progress. You don't expect sentences to be as easy as I eat a cake every day, or I go to school every day, to be the same kind of example that you'll find when you proceed to high school, especially when it comes to your exams. So now we will have our first lesson in grammar, and that has something to do with a process by which ideas are being combined. When we combine ideas to create a single statement, there are two possible processes that we can embrace. And then one of these processes is the process of coordination. So we have the first grammar lesson for the school year, coordinating ideas. To this, I'd like to use my phone now as an extension of the discussion. So this is what's going to happen. I'll put this on spotlight so that this is only what you'll see. So I hope everybody can see this. So I'll be writing things down on this area, and then hopefully if you want to take down some important things, you can. Yes, Alex, you have a question? Alex, you raised a hand.
Sir, Alice is still in the waiting room, sir.
Alex is here.
Alice.
Alessandra, no, I have not seen any request from Alessandra, because I would be notified if someone is wanting to join the call, but nothing comes out here whether she wants to join the call or not. I think it has something to do again with the internet connection. Anyway, she can, when her connection allows it, she can then be accepted to this call. So we have this discussion on coordinating ideas. Remember these markers? They're still alive. I think these markers helped you so much when it came to diagramming. So we have this lesson which creates a particular type of sentence according to structure. Again, coordination as a process of combining ideas creates or helps create a particular sentence according to structure. What are our sentence structures? You have a simple sentence, a compound sentence, a complex sentence, and a combination of these two, a compound complex sentence. Coordination creates or helps you create a compound sentence. So what do we find in a compound sentence? Compound sentences are created by combining at least two independent clauses. So please take note of that. When we coordinate ideas, we actually create a compound sentence. We create a compound sentence, and a compound sentence is composed of at least two independent clauses. And of course, I think it's better that we remind ourselves once more of what a clause is. A clause has to meet three important requirements for it to be really called a clause. First, it has to be a group of words. That's the first requirement. Second, that group of words needs to contain a subject and a predicate. And by definition, a predicate is a verb. A simple predicate is a verb. The third requirement is that group of words with a subject and a predicate must have an idea which could be complete or incomplete. If the idea in that group of words happens to be complete, then what you have there is an independent clause. But if it happens that the idea is incomplete, then the clause is a dependent clause. For you to have the feel whether the clause is dependent, you should try reading it. And then if it one helpful tip is you should try reading that clause. If it leaves you a hanging impression, then most probably that clause is dependent. A quick example. A quick example of a dependent clause. So you have here three words. Is it a group of words? Yes, obviously it is. Does it contain a subject and a verb? We have the word he as the subject and came, which is our verb or the predicate. In this complete set, how would we know whether the idea is complete or incomplete? So as said, one helpful tip is when you try to read the sentence, the group of words. If it gives you an income or a hanging impression, then that probably is a dependent clause. So how do we read this? Since he came, see, it does not sound complete at all. Since he came, so listen to the tune, listen to the tone of the clause. Since he came, or since he came, at any rate, it does not sound complete. Therefore, the clause is dependent. But if the clause sounds to be complete, does not leave you a hanging impression, nor you can develop that feeling that something is missing, then most probably it is an independent clause. And mind you, an independent clause by definition, by simple definition, is already a sentence. That's what an independent clause is. Since it can stand on its own, since that independent clause has a complete thought, it can already stand as a single sentence. It can stand on its own. So once again, coordinating ideas goes through the process of creating a compound sentence. A compound sentence is composed of at least two independent clauses, and an independent clause in itself is already a sentence. Question so far? Any question? For a while. Please, if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask. That's probably what happened when it came to the literature discussion. Please do not be also surprised if I do this from time to time. Wait, my camera froze. Please do not be surprised if I do this from time to time. If I wipe the table with a wet tissue, using a dry cloth won't be enough. So I have to do this. So this is a repeated process. If you watched one of my videos for the grade 10 class, we've actually been doing this since the start of the grammar sessions. Okay. By the way, grade 9, if you have questions that you cannot point out now, you can actually put that question in the chat box and then we can respond to those questions later on. I have to reiterate that. I think I've mentioned that before. I have to reiterate that because that concern came out in another class. That concern came out because the student was probably afraid. I don't know what the rationale is, but the student just sent a message privately and told me that there's this feeling of fear when it comes to raising questions openly to the class. So do not hesitate to put the question and send it in in a private message. But of course, the point there is you should be able to address that, raise that question up for you to have it clarified. Do not let that confusion do not let it should stay with you for a long time. How do we do the process of coordination? When we do coordination, we use conjunctions. We remind ourselves of conjunctions. Conjunctions belong to your parts of speech. So I'd like to ask someone from the class, how many parts of speech do we have? Um, Trixley, how many parts of speech do we have? If I am not mistaken, I raised this question when you were in grade 8. Right at that moment when I entered your class. How many conjunctions, sorry, how many parts of speech do we have, Trixley?
8, sir. 8.
8, correct. So for these parts of speech, we have nouns, pronouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections. For now, our focus would be conjunctions. As we are trying to coordinate ideas, that simply goes to show that the kind of conjunction that we are going to use are the kinds of conjunctions that we are going to use are coordinating conjunctions. You have coordinating conjunctions that we can use. We have to use. We have to, of course, set these coordinating conjunctions differently from subordinating conjunctions. Just look at key terms. Coordinating conjunctions, we use them for coordinating ideas. Subordinating conjunctions, we use them for subordinating ideas. When we use a coordinating conjunction, we are doing the process of coordination. Thereby, we are creating compound sentences. When we use a coordinating conjunction, there is a particular punctuation mark that we should also be reminded of. And that punctuation mark is the comma. If you look at your, I know, I'm not sure if the modules are already, do you already have the modules with you? If you do, there's an important part there that discusses using commas with coordinating conjunctions. Because sometimes people ignore the use of a comma when supposedly it is quite a requirement. Like for instance, if a coordinating conjunction is joining together two independent clauses, it needs to have a comma with it. Independent clauses have the ability to stand alone as complete sentences. So you have an example, television is a wonderful escape, but it interferes with my writing. You have there a comma before one coordinating conjunction. What are the 7 commonly used coordinating conjunctions? So if you look at your module, or even without looking at your module, you'll be reminded of an acronym to represent the 7 commonly used coordinating conjunctions in grammar and in the English language. We are referring to the acronym Fanboys. Fanboys, as each letter corresponds to one particular What's the last thing that you heard? Kathy, what's the last thing that I mentioned before I was cut off?
I remember comma, sir.
Wait. So comma was the last thing. Have I not started mentioning the fanboys? I have not. Okay.
I heard that you read a sentence, sir. The television is a wonderful.
The sentence found in the module.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'd like to start from there again. So you have the example, which is television is a wonderful escape, but it interferes with my writing. You could find a comma if you look at your module soon. When you have your module, please find time to look at that comma that is placed before one coordinating conjunction. And what coordinating conjunction is that? It's that word which is found in an acronym. There is an acronym that represents the most commonly used coordinating conjunctions in the English language. We have the acronym Fanboys. Fanboys is an acronym that has a letter representing one particular coordinating conjunction. You have F for, A for and, N for nor, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and S for so. So you have fanboys, a list of 7 commonly used coordinating conjunctions. You also have in the module a discussion on how to use each of these coordinating conjunctions. Like a function is provided for each coordinating conjunction. For instance, we use for to explain a reason or to provide a purpose. In the context of subordination, for is equivalent to the use of the word because. Again, we do not use because in this lesson yet. One wrong notion that students get for the letter B in fanboys is that they think that it represents because. Unfortunately, it does not. The B in the letter B in fanboys represents but and not because. And is to be used when you add one thing to another. You use nor to present an alternative to an already stated idea, negative idea, but shows contrast or presents alternatives or choices, yet introduces a contrasting idea preceding idea that follows the preceding idea logically, which makes it quite similar to but. So indicates an effect, a result, or a consequence. Among these 7, what I noticed from students is the misuse of the word nor, or that when they use nor, they ignore the correct structure that supposedly comes out in a sentence that follows coordination. So how do we construct a sentence that uses nor? For instance, you have this. Here's your sentence. My friend did not want this, nor did she hope for me to accept it. Look at the structure. Let's try to underline parts. This happens to be your independent clause 1. That's independent clause 1. What is independent clause 2? This is independent clause 2. However, perhaps there's not much of an issue with independent clause 1. But the issue comes with independent clause number 2. Look at the structure of independent clause number 2. You have an auxiliary verb, did, placed before the subject she, which is not the usual structure that we place for independent clauses or for sentences, unless it's a question. If it's a question, then of course, the question verb did can begin or can start that question. But since there's no question here, others find it to be perhaps unusual to see this kind of structure. But this structure stands when you use nor in the process of coordination. Again, you use nor, no, sorry, you use this structure where the auxiliary verb comes first after nor in the process of coordination. Let's try to have another example. And then I'll ask one of you to combine them using nor. For a while. I will not show to you the sentence. I'll give you two independent clauses, but I will not show them to you. I'll not show them to you right away, so that you'll have the same amount of time to prepare.
Okay, there's a chat from Alan. Yes, Alan, the given is like this. What's like this, Alan? Yes, it is possible, and by the time you're going to raise it to the power of 2, x, there will be a quadratic variable, which means to say, if x is a quadratic variable, probability will happen to the value of your x. How many values of x will there be? There are two values.
For a while.
If your variable is being raised to the power of 2, x will be having x will have two values as its final answer. Okay. There are more complicated examples. The likes of two radicals on each side of the equation. So we'll have to have that example then. So for now, I'm not so sure what's wrong with my PowerPoint.
So you have here two independent clauses. Wait, there. You have the two independent clauses. The first one is Dad was not happy. The second one, Dad was not expecting others to be happy as well. Again, Dad was not happy. That's clause 1. Sentence 1. Dad was not expecting others to be happy as well. That's clause 2 or sentence 2. Using the process of coordination, combine these two. Again, using the process of coordination, combine these two. I'd like to request one of you to give me the answer. Who will it be? We will not call the invis because we really cannot see them. I'll just call one from the VCs. Rafael.
So if you transpose 3 and 4,
Dad was not happy, nor was Dad not
Wait, for a while. Dad
was not happy,
not happy. Wait.
nor was Dad expecting others to be happy as well.
Others to be happy
Well,
as well. First question, have these two clauses been combined using the process of coordination? The answer is yes. Obviously, the answer is yes. Has nor been correctly used? Look at the structure. What came after nor is an auxiliary verb. After the auxiliary verb comes the rest of the words part of that independent clause. Therefore, nor has been correctly used. However, there is one minor error in this answer given by Rafaela. That's his answer. That's his answer. What is that minor error? By the way, allow me to identify, or let's better rectify this minor error, because when we tolerate an error, no matter how minor or major that error may be, it still remains to be an error. We do not want that error to remain an error. We want to do what we can to correct it. What error am I referring to, Kathy?
3 plus 4 is 7. And just copy the recap.
Hello, Kath.
This is much like the same the fact Edson actually said. Factoring out the square of x plus 3 gives you 3
Kathy.
plus 4. Which gives you the answer 7 square root of 3 plus 4. Though the answer of Edson might be
Hello, Kath.
complicated at some point.
Yes, sir.
What error can we find in this answer given by Rafael?
Um, is it the second dad, sir?
Correct. What's the error behind this word, Kath?
Like, since they're talking about the same person, sir, they, they didn't have to use the same word. They could have just used and
Correct.
dad again.
In lieu of dad, you use the pronoun he.
Now,
Let us not forget that in every sentence we do, the rules in grammar should always be incorporated. Pronoun antecedent agreement. That's the rule here. Why is it that it's not necessary, or that we should not anymore repeat the word dad? That does not go with, anaphora does not go well with grammar. We accept anaphora, the repetition of a word in literature, because perhaps that's a literary style. But in grammar, we minimize that. We avoid redundancy. To achieve coherence, to achieve good transition, we use antecedents. Agreement of the pronoun and the antecedent. Thus, you have the lesson on pronoun antecedent agreement. So again, that might just be a minor error, but that is still an error. Others might say, to whosoever finds this video, they might say, that's not an error. That sentence is still correct. They can beg to disagree with me, but I would also beg to differ with them. I will always see this as an error because the rules on pronoun antecedent agreement exist. This has to be replaced with the word he. If the viewers of this video, because again, we have a video that just reached more than 900 views, let's not forget that. If the viewers of this video say that this one is supposedly correct because the sentence is just fine as it is, then we might as well just remove the rules on pronoun antecedent agreement. But since the rules are there, we follow the rules. Questions regarding the use of nor. Wait, I'll have to replace my wipes. My wipes have dried up. Wait. Questions? Any question? If there's none, we proceed to another category of words that can actually be used as coordinating conjunctions other than your fanboys. We call them conjunctive adverbs. Fortunately, your module has a list of them. Plus, aside from having listed down these conjunctive adverbs, you have also there the functions of these conjunctive adverbs. Like, when are you going to use each conjunctive adverb? That question will be answered by looking at your module. Other than the functions, I'd like you to be focused on, to be reminded of the punctuation marks that you should use whenever you have a conjunctive adverb. So when you have a conjunctive adverb, you have this punctuation mark, then you have the conjunctive adverb here, then you have that punctuation mark. Again, the blank is for the conjunctive adverb. From the term itself, a conjunctive adverb is an adverb that is used for conjunction. Conjunction. That is conjunction. That is used for as conjunction. Like consequently. From the structure of consequently, it ends in ly. Obviously, that puts it as an adverb. But how is consequently often used in sentences? It functions as a conjunction. Thus, you have a conjunctive adverb. Again, whenever you use a conjunctive adverb, these two punctuation marks should be there. There will be a semicolon and a comma. Even if you use the right conjunctive adverb, but the punctuation marks are wrong, unfortunately, your answer is incorrect. However, do not also be surprised if you find a sentence that uses a supposed conjunctive adverb, but not in the process of coordination. That can actually be true. But if that's the case, coordination is not being followed. Let's have an example, a clear example for that. Let's have clause 1, independent clause 1.
Just so you know, x plus 3 raised to the power of 2 is not x squared minus a plus 9. Because the real meaning behind x plus 3 raised to the power of 2 is
independent clause 2.
You can do that and apply for method. If you don't follow
I'm looking for
so let's
a
raise
good
both
conjunctive adverb to use.
the left side will now become x plus 3, the right side will now become x squared plus 6x plus 9. And some of the things over here next step here. Only 3.
Remember the kind of sentences that we had last year? They're the kind which did not want people to live. We've always been wanting people to die, to meet an accident. So the sentences are back. So you have independent clause 1 and independent clause 2. Again, do not be surprised if these sentences are being referred to as independent clauses. Because like what I said earlier, an independent clause in itself is already a sentence. So using the process of coordination people, using conjunctive adverbs, using a conjunctive adverb, how do we combine these two? We can have it stated this way. My friend died. Punctuation mark again. After died, we will use a semicolon. Then we will provide the conjunctive adverb after this, which will also be followed by a comma. What conjunctive adverb can we use here? Al. What conjunctive adverb can we actually use?
Also.
Also. What will be placed after also? You have comma. His pet hamster died. Of course, we will not anymore use also here because the word also has already appeared on the side. After this, we will put a period. So you have a single sentence. My friend died. Also, his pet hamster died. This is a single sentence, a compound sentence in structure, a sentence created using the process of coordination. Earlier I said some of these conjunctive adverbs may be used not in the process of coordination. So this is what I mean by that. Wait. My friend died. Also, his pet hamster died. Carefully look at the sentence marked in red. The one that you have here, the one that's in red. My God, I misspelled friend. This is so embarrassing. And it's on video. My gosh. My God, people make mistakes. Wait. My friend. There. The sentence marked in red may contain, yes, it does contain the same set of words. The placement is also similar to how the purple sentence looked like. However, the red mark, the line in red does not follow coordination. Obviously, it does not, because in the red mark, in this red group, you are not combining sentences at all. All that you're doing is to simply put sentences beside each other. That does not achieve the goal of coordination. Different from the first one, from the one marked in purple. Coordination is done there because you have just created a single sentence. In here, you did not. So this does not do coordination. This does coordination. Questions? Questions? Another structure, another way, I think it's not in your module. Another way by which compound sentences are created or coordination is done is with the use of punctuation marks only. Like when you use a punctuation mark only. So no coordinating conjunction comes out, no conjunctive, no fanboys, not one of fanboys comes out, no conjunctive adverb is used. For instance,
do not assume that this example is the same with the previous example a while ago, because this is just the same with what the first
came early today.
I asked you to do. The one with 2 plus the square root of 3x plus 2. Try, there's also something wrong with your chat. Probably you type it wrongly. So why not do this one in this week's solution? So we have here.
Okay. We came early today. It was an agreement among everyone.
Plus 11.
In this sample, obviously, you have no word from fanboys, nor can you find any of your conjunctive adverbs. But do we have clauses combined together? We do. What is independent clause 1? Independent clause 1 is, we came early today. What is independent clause 2? It was an agreement among everyone. What did we use to combine these two independent clauses? This punctuation mark. So again, coordination can be done with words or with mere punctuation marks. You might have also noticed when I identified the independent clauses, I did not include the coordinating conjunctions. That's important. Do not anymore, you don't have to include the coordinating conjunction because, like what was already previously stated, it is already a sentence in itself. It can stand on its own. So there's no need for you to include the coordinating conjunction placed before that independent clause. It's just like merely identifying the sentences that are being combined into one. Such is the case. The case is different when we talk about subordinating conjunctions, because with subordinating conjunctions, the clause happens to be incomplete. Questions?
So if n is equal to positive 1, what will happen to the final answer then? Or what will happen to the
Please, any question?
positive 1 to the original equation? We have here, the square root of n is the square root of 1.
Does everybody have a copy of the module?
Positive 1.
Have you received your, okay, your modules are still on their way.
1 is equal to 5.
If you look at the module, I think your module has a substantial number of examples.
Therefore,
Like for the words in Fanboys, each coordinating conjunction has been given one example for use. And then for the conjunctive adverbs, you also have there several examples, like 10 examples of sentences on the 10 sample sentences on the second page. I think that's more than enough to show to you how these conjunctive adverbs are supposedly used in a sentence. I also indicated there the reference because if you wish to look for more examples, you can browse these references online.
if it won't satisfy, then
Questions? Your ST for this lesson is already done. It's already in Edmodo. It just needs to be scheduled. Questions? Please do not hesitate to ask.
We get to square the value x and square the other side as well.
Do you have questions? Because if there are no more questions, then we can end the class there. We can call it a day. So that will be all. I am not seeing any question. I'm not seeing anybody raise a hand for questions or clarifications. That being the case, for the purpose of attendance, I think I'll be doing this from time to time now. For the purpose of attendance, as this session is recorded, the following are around: Kathy, Al, Ken, Kinth, Jacob, Trixley, Vem, Alex, Raphael, Jade, King, Harvey, Hero, Kent, Alessandra, Marl, Corinne, Jaya, Natalia, and Chelsea. So they're the only ones who are around. And then we still have the VCs and the InVs. The ones who are only visible are the only ones that you will also find in the who's checking your attendance grade 9. Kim? Okay. Because I'm inviting Kim to do what Rain Larong had done. Oh, unless Kim is already doing it. Kim, are you taking note of students absent in a particular subject?
Sir, I and them, sir.
Ah, okay. So you have that record because
Yes,
that will really help. Please we really invite students to really take note of who are not around in a particular subject. Again, if there are no more questions, if there are no questions, no concerns, so we can call it a day. Goodbye and thank you, grade 9.